Without further ado, Mr. Abel Collins.
Thank you, Mike. The first thing I'd like to say is this campaign is going to be about more than just making a point. I am in this race to win. And the reason that I've decided to run for Congress in District 2 is because over the past 6 years, I've talked to thousands of Rhode Islanders on their doorsteps, in community meetings, at rallies, and public hearings, even here at the State House. And there is a general sense that the public is becoming less and less powerful. We're losing our voice in government. And we need to take it back. Our country was established to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And it's quickly descending into a government that is for the large campaign donors and corporations. And together, we can stop that. Now, I've got 4 priority issues that Rhode Islanders care about and that I will fight for in Washington. I will be briefly describing those, but they are 1, financial industry accountability, 2, campaign finance reform, 3, a Green Works program, and the 4th one, well, let me go back. The 4th and most important one is really getting people involved in the political process again, re-engaging the public in the political process. By demonstrating that independent candidates can run effective campaigns, we can reinvigorate the civic discussion in this country. And that is the most important thing of all. Win or lose, I want to bring people back into the political process so they're not apathetic, they're not disenfranchised or disaffected. So let me talk after that a bit about those priorities. Financial industry accountability is critical to getting our economy running again. The big banks have only grown bigger since the financial disaster of 2008. And that disaster did not happen all at once, of course. That was the accumulation of 30 years of bad policies. And right now, we need to make sure the big banks are being held accountable. We need to make sure that there is no too big to fail. Too big to fail is too big to exist. We can regulate our banking industry by doing things like making sure the banks are not betting with derivatives in opaque markets that can't be controlled. We can make sure that the Federal Reserve is held more accountable to the public and not simply representing the interests of the large banks. We can do that in ways that have not been done. The financial crisis in 2008 was largely the result of a massive amount of fraud, from the origination of mortgages on up to the highest levels of governance in those institutions. So we need to prosecute people at the tops of those organizations, people who think they're doing God's work, they say. We need to make sure they're prosecuted under Sarbanes-Oxley and under RICO laws. And our regulatory agencies have the authority to do that right now. Our politicians in Washington just aren't making them do it. So when I go to Washington, I'm going to make sure that that job gets done. Next, campaign finance reform. One of the biggest problems facing our country is really the amount of money that influences our politics. Corporations, as it stands right now, are considered people. They have the ability to make unlimited campaign donations, and that is hurting our democracy. We need to make sure, first off, that corporations are no longer considered people. But in the end, we need to make sure that our federal elections are all publicly funded. So we reduce the influence of corporations and large campaign donors in the policymaking process. In terms of our Green Works program, Rhode Island has a lot of advantages, which I would emphasize in Washington. We have a beautiful, beautiful state with wind resources that can be captured and turned into renewable energy. We have vibrant soil, which can be turned into sustainable small farming operations, which are already growing around the state, but which can really be encouraged to be more. We can also do a lot to invest in creating a greener transportation system, making sure that our communities are prepared for a world where oil is much more expensive and much more hard to get access to. That means investing in commuter rail, in building walkable and bikeable communities, in making sure that mass transit is available to everyone. These are issues that will save Rhode Islanders money and that will provide good, high-paying jobs for Americans. I'll also say that another priority for me is going to be focusing on fair trade rather than free trade, making sure that we're bringing back those jobs that we've lost to other countries because they engage in unfair labor practices and unfair environmental practices. They are abusing their workers, they're abusing their environments, and they're gaining an unfair advantage over American goods. We can build those goods safely and cleanly here in America, but we have to make sure we're not giving an advantage to those factories overseas. So those are my priorities. As I said, that's one half of this campaign. The other half is really getting people involved, making sure the grassroots are once again represented in Washington. And thank you. I'll take any questions.